So when I say the name Al Capone, what comes to mind? Probably a ruthless mob boss, right? The king of Chicago's underworld. And you wouldn't be wrong, but that's really only half of it. The real puzzle of Al Capone is this huge contradiction at the very heart of his life.
I mean, how does a guy who is responsible for just unthinkable violence, a man who built a whole empire on crime and corruption, how does that same guy end up on the cover of Time magazine, celebrated by millions as some kind of symbol of the American dream? Now that is the question we're going to unpack. Because Al Capone's greatest weapon? It wasn't a Tommy gun. It was the power of a really, really good story.
To really get Capone, you have to see these two completely different versions of him that were walking around at the exact same time.
Okay, check this out. It's just an incredible split, right? In 1932, Hollywood makes the movie Scarface, and the censors force them to portray him as pure evil, the shame of a nation. But just 2 years before that, the real Al Capone was a genuine celebrity, smiling from the cover of Time. So, what was he? The monster or the mogul?
Well, the answer starts where it so often does, with a choice. A choice between two very different versions of the American dream, laid out for him when he was just a kid.
In 1894, the Capone family lands in New York from Italy with $17. That's it, $17 to their name. And just like millions of others, they were chasing that promise of a better life, believing that if you just worked hard and played by the rules, you could make it.
So young Al had these two powerful father figures. On one side, you have his actual dad, Gabriele, an honorable barber who stood for the straight and narrow path. And on the other side, you've got Johnny Torrio, a big-shot mob boss, who showed him a much, much faster and deadlier way to the top. The law-abiding immigrant versus the law-breaking one. A choice had to be made.
You know his famous scars, right? Well, he didn't get them in some heroic battle. He got them in a grimy bar fight over a woman when her brother slashed him. But Capone was ashamed of this mark that basically branded him as just another street thug. So he invented a story. He told everyone he got it fighting for his country in World War I. And this is it. This is his first big realization. You can literally rewrite your own reality if you just tell a better story.
And boy, did he get a chance to test that theory on a national scale. It all came thanks to a single change to the U.S. Constitution, which pretty much became the foundation of his entire empire.
See, Prohibition was meant to be this great moral crusade to clean up America. But what it really did was create the single biggest criminal opportunity in the nation's history. All of a sudden, millions of regular folks were desperate for something the government said they couldn't have. Al Capone looked at this, and he didn't see a crime. He saw a business opening, a chance to rebrand himself in a huge way.
And this is where he was a genius. He completely changed the narrative. He wasn't a criminal, no. He was just fulfilling a public need. He started calling himself a businessman, a trader of happiness. He opened thousands of speakeasies and filled them with the hottest new music, jazz, which made him a patron of the arts. The thug Scarface became snorky, which was slang back then for a sharp, stylish dresser. He was a fashion icon, a man about town.
And you know what? The story worked. At his peak, Capone's operation was pulling in an estimated $60 million a year. That's over $1 billion in today's money. He had sold the public a new story about himself, and it made him unbelievably fantastically rich.
But here's the thing about a story that's built on lies. It's fragile. And on Valentine's Day in 1929, one single act of shocking violence completely shattered Capone's carefully crafted image forever.
Just look at how fast this all happened. On February 13th, he's Snorky, Chicago's charming celebrity. The very next day, men dressed up as cops walk into a garage and execute 7 guys from a rival gang with machine guns. Now, Capone was in Miami, but everybody knew who was behind it. Overnight, the very same newspapers that built him up tore him down, slapping him with a new title, Public Enemy Number 1. The story had completely flipped.
So with his public image in tatters, Capone finds himself in a totally new kind of fight, a war of stories against the U.S. government itself. And the way it all ended is maybe the most famous irony in the history of crime.
Capone, always the storyteller, he tries another rebrand. The Great Depression hits, so he opens up soup kitchens to feed thousands of homeless people in Chicago. He's trying to become a modern-day Robin Hood, but the government fought back with its own story. They created this team of handsome, squeaky clean agents led by Eliot Ness, the Untouchables, a media-friendly force of good, to go up against Capone's evil.
So what was it going to take to finally bring this guy down? He'd survived brutal gang wars, he'd bribed his way out of countless police raids, he lived through assassination attempt after assassination attempt. They could never pin a murder on him, and even the famous Untouchables, with all their media hype, couldn't make a serious charge stick. So what was left?
Yep. After all the bullets, the blood, and the bribes, the crime that finally took down America's most notorious gangster was paperwork. A quiet team of accountants at the Treasury Department, led by a guy named Frank Wilson, spent years just meticulously going through ledgers and receipts. They proved Capone hadn't paid taxes on all his illegal money, and boom, he was sentenced to 11 years in federal prison. At the time, it was the longest sentence ever given for tax evasion.
So Capone's reign was over. Syphilis eventually destroyed his mind, and he died pretty quietly in 1947. But his story? Oh, his story was just getting started.
And think about this for a second. Al's older brother, James, he was the real war hero Al only pretended to be. James went on to become a prohibition agent. He chose the good path. And yet, who do we all remember? It's Al's bad story that has become immortal. You know, maybe there's a part of us that's just drawn to the outlaw, the anti-hero who gets to break all the rules we have to follow. His story just has this power that his brothers, for all its decency, just can't compete with.
The creator of Breaking Bad, Vince Gilligan, he absolutely nailed it. Capone's story is now a permanent part of our cultural DNA. He basically wrote the blueprint for the modern anti-hero, that charismatic villain you can't help but kind of root for, from Don Corleone all the way to Walter White.
And that kind of leaves us with this final thought. Al Capone's life proves that reality itself can be shaped, and fortunes can be won and lost, all based on the stories we tell. And it really makes you wonder, in this big battle for success and identity, does the truth always win out? Or does the victory just go to whoever tells the most compelling story?